Vote we're waiting for, and I know we can go back and find out more about what's going on at the UN, but very timely, this development.
Absolutely. Manisha, we're looking now at the French foreign minister speaking for his nation at the UN Security Council. Richard Roth is with us, monitoring the process there. Do we know what the text is going to say? Do we know what the council is going to do yet, Richard? Let's just listen in, actually, to the foreign minister.
Qui mène une répression meurtrière contre ses propres citoyens. C'est la raison pour laquelle l'Assemblée générale des Nations
attacking his own people. It is for this reason that the Secretary, the Security Council, at the behest of the Human Rights Council, suspended Libya. And this is for this reason that in February it was determined that the systematic and widespread attacks committed against the civilian population can constitute crimes against humanity.
My understanding is that I shall now put the draft resolution to the vote now. Will those in favor of the draft resolution contained in document S/2011/142, please raise their hand. Please put down your hand. Those against, please raise your hand. Abstentions, please raise your hand. Please put down your hand. The result of the voting is as follows. 10 votes in favor, 0 vote against, 5 abstentions. The resolution is adopted as an S/1973/2011.
Within this framework, or here, I'd like to reaffirm
that was Nawaf Salam, the Lebanese ambassador to the United Nations, giving his position on the decision there. The decision being 10 votes in favor of this no-fly zone from the UN Security Council. There were 5 abstentions. That included the Chinese and the Russian Federation, along with Germany actually abstaining from voting on that resolution. But effectively, that resolution now passed, and that's with all necessary measures to protect civilians in Libya. Now, you know, it's been tortuous enough to get the UN Security Council in the first place to even consider the no-fly zone over Libya. But now we have that vote and we have it in favor. So let's go to our Washington bureau. Mark Quarterman joins us. He's a senior fellow at the Center for Strategic and International Studies and can really put us in the picture as the effectiveness of something like this. What I'm very interested in, Mark, is, and this was a question that Jonathan actually put to Richard Roth, who's been watching this vote today, and this is a no-fly tactic, but what about what could happen on the ground? I mean, how far do you think this goes?
That's a very good question. It seems as though we've been preoccupied with implementing a no-fly zone. That's been the issue discussed, without asking whether a no-fly zone is the most effective step to take in response to what's going on in Libya. In some ways, a no-fly zone is the lowest common denominator for international military action. It doesn't involve troops on the ground. It involves ensuring that planes don't go up in the air, and that's it. But there is a provision in the resolution for protection of civilians and all necessary measures being taken. That's a code for military action. And you've heard the French foreign minister and the Lebanese ambassador refer obliquely to that. And it could well be, and this is a matter of interpretation, that steps will be taken beyond a no-fly zone to use that air power to protect civilians, possibly by hitting Gaddafi's forces on the ground.
Now, we're going to get, we're hopefully going to find out from our people who are in Benghazi. In fact, our Damon is there, as to how people there responded. We know that they were watching this vote on screens, that sort of thing. But in the meantime, I just want to bring you up to date, and I don't know if you got to hear this. We were speaking to Nick Robertson earlier. He's our man in Tripoli, and he said that he'd spoken to Colonel Gaddafi's son, who had said, actually, what they're going to do is surround Benghazi and really try to support the humanitarian effort, they say, because people will want to leave Benghazi and they will send in a police force. Now, do you see that as a backing down, considering the timing in this vote?
Well, I have to say I'm no expert on Libyan politics, but I do have to say that appears to be a direct response to the imminence of a UN resolution that could involve airstrikes fairly quickly, according to the French, on Libyan forces. It might have taken a long time for the Security Council to get here and for the international community to get here, but it seemed to be a very quick and very specific response to the international community's response to what's going on in Libya.
Okay, just stand by for us, Mark Quarterman there, who's waiting in our Washington bureau, because we're going to get some of that response, right, Jonathan?
That's right, Manisha. And once again, if you're just joining us, the most dramatic announcement made yet by the world community since the start of the Arab uprisings weeks ago, the UN Security Council voting 10-0 with 5 abstentions to establish a no-fly zone in Libya. Well, Arwa Damon is in Benghazi, where the rebels and the population have been waiting for this kind of vote, literally watching televisions, hoping to see something like this. Arwa Damon joins us now. Arwa, do the people know yet what's been voted? Has there been much reaction?
Oh, there definitely has been here. The crowds around us went absolutely crazy, cheering, chanting, firing into the air, AK-47s. Everything at their disposal. Fireworks were erupting for minutes here. This is exactly what they have been waiting for so long. People now so happy that the international community does seem to be standing behind them. Now they feel that they actually have a fighting chance in this, that all of their efforts, everything that they've sacrificed for the last 31 days is actually probably now going to amount to something. This is a people, the opposition, that was desperate for international aid, really feeling as if they were breathing their last breath when it came to trying to stand up to Gaddafi's military might. And now they do have this international support. They do have that no-fly zone. They do feel as if they can win this fight. And you can hear the gunfire erupting again. It's been non-stop. Even before the announcement was made, we were hearing all of this. People here most certainly very, very relieved. The big question on everyone's mind now is going to be, when is this no-fly zone going to be implemented, Johnson?
Have they heard the announcement from the regime that Moammar Gadhafi plans to send his forces in slowly? He plans to allow civilians who want to leave Benghazi to do so. Does this harden their resolve? Does this mean that they're twice or more determined than they were before and less likely to heed whatever offer Moammar Gadhafi is putting forward?
Yeah, Jonathan, they definitely did hear that announcement, and people's faces fell as that announcement took place, because at the end of the day, they do know that Gaddafi is a man who historically has not shown mercy on the population. They do believe that he is capable of anything. People were genuinely and probably rightfully fearing a massacre. People were even saying that a genocide was going to be happening in Libya, and they were very fearful of all of Gaddafi's threats, although there's been no indication just yet that his forces are closing in on Benghazi itself. They've already seen what has happened to the rest of the country, to areas that he has tried to bring under control that have come under heavy air bombardment. There have been intense artillery assaults there. Now, yes, they do feel at the end of the day that this has all been worth it, because now they feel that they're that much closer to success. This has been an uprising that has been driven by will, by heart, not by military might. The fighters from the opposition, they're not much more than a bunch of young men who learned how to use their weapons just a few weeks ago, something that has been painfully obvious on the battlefield, but now they do feel that everything that they have sacrificed is probably going to amount to something. People were willing to die for this cause, but now they realize that they might not have to, and they hope, now they can really, really hope that at the end of the day they're going to get what they were looking for, and that's, as they keep telling us, that is a free and democratic Libya, Jonathan.
Arwa Damon live from Benghazi with the very unusual sound of gunfire celebrating a vote of the UN Security Council to establish a no-fly zone over Libya. Manisha?
Well, we'll get more on that vote. Now, let's bring in Richard Roth, who was monitoring the whole thing at the United Nations. You know, the devil is often in the detail, Richard. What do we know?
The German ambassador is speaking now to the Security Council, explaining why it was one of 5 countries to abstain on this resolution. The resolution still passed with 10 yes votes, 5 abstentions, including Russia and China and India and Germany, and no vetoes. So this resolution establishes a no-fly zone in the skies over Libya. It also may mean much more. It authorizes, quote, all necessary means to protect the civilians in Libya. One diplomat said, we want something that will stop the slaughter that Gadhafi is committing. France echoing that in its remarks. The British ambassador just spoke, saying that the international community is standing up for the people of Libya. The German ambassador began by saying, look, we respect human rights and we dislike strongly the Gadhafi regime. But I think there's some concern about the implementation of this no-fly zone and what it might open the door to. That's what's happening here at the Security Council. The German ambassador with a non-permanent status, so that country can't veto any resolutions. Jonathan, Manisha?
There was another question I wanted to ask you, Richard, and maybe this is something you've picked up on the sidelines. Some talk about whether or not there would be any Arab nations involved with this. We know that a little bit earlier we saw Nawaf Salam, of course, of Lebanon, giving his opinion, his view on what was happening in Libya. But any talk on that? What have you heard?
I think a lot of countries don't want to exactly tip their hand, and I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a long time to find out who exactly might be participating from the Arab nations, who are always reticent to come out publicly against one of their own, even if Libya has been suspended from the Security Council. The Arab League ambassador to the UN said he knew of at least 2 countries, and he said maybe when asked, are those 2 countries Qatar and the UAE? Secretary Clinton of the U.S. and others have demanded international participation by the Arab countries to lead and join. They don't want to make this look like it's the United States invading an Arab country again. That was part of the tactics to woo support for this resolution. Now the answers may come from other capitals that will be providing perhaps forces or pilots.
Okay, Richard Roth there at the United Nations. Thanks for that update, Jonathan.